So that's from Dr. Afendi, and he mentioned macaque, the long-tail macaque. So we have our next speaker here, Dr. Mila Power, who will talk about our closest living relative that are the primates. So this is the resume for Mila Margaret Rosemary Power. She is a biologist and researcher based in Auckland, New Zealand. She is now conducted research on behavioral and social dynamics of captive Bornean orangutans or Pongo pygmaeus at Auckland Zoo, focusing on group integration following the introduction of a new individual. And she also do research, contributes to improving captive animal management and supports orangutan conservation programs in managed setting worldwide. So give your applause to Dr. Mila.
Terima kasih semua orang. Saya Mila. Saya dari Selandia Baru. Maaf, little bit nervous. Today I'm going to be speaking about the work that I am doing at Sabangau National Park. Okay, who am I? My name is Mila. I'm from New Zealand and I am here for 1 year working with the Bornean Nature Foundation. I am here to work on the Orangutan Health Project, and I have a background in biology and anthropology. These combined together have helped give me a perspective of how important a multifaceted approach is to complex health issues. My current work with the Bornean Nature Foundation contributes to a long-term project investigating the abundance and diversity of gastrointestinal parasites of wild orangutans at Sabangau National Park. To carry out this work, I am based out of Camp Lahag in Sabangau, where I collect and analyze samples to better understand orangutan health. Sorry. Sorry, still talking. And I just want to say to the students, as helpful as my university education was, I found emailing lecturers, emailing postgraduate students and volunteering with them has given me so much invaluable experience. I've had the opportunity to work with so many different taxa, invertebrates, birds, primates, and I think this is what helped contribute to me getting this position. I'm not classically trained in parasitology, but it's been a really great learning curve, and I've had many people helping me along the way. Okay, Sabangau. Camp Lahag, Laparan Alam Hutan Gambut. It is a former logging camp that has been transformed into a research centre. It's located within Sabangau National Park. Sabangau National Park is one of the largest peat swamp conservation areas in Indonesia, and it is a site of significant ecological importance. The area has been protected as a national park since 2004. The research area that I work at was selectively logged over a period of approximately 40 years. Legal logging continued from the 1970s until the mid-90s, after which it was made illegal, but did continue in the area. However, through recent efforts of locally led community patrol teams, illegal logging is believed to have stopped since 2004. Despite the illegal logging stopping, its impacts are still visible today. Timber extraction canals dug by the loggers combined with forest loss have disrupted the peatland's natural hydrology. These canals continue to drain water from the peat, reducing its ability to function like a natural sponge. So it's not able to retain water. So during the wet seasons, it's much more prone to flooding. And during the dry seasons, it is much more prone to wildfires. It's some particularly devastating ones in 2015, 2019, and 2023. This is highlighting the long-term consequences of peatland degradation. Sabangao as a site provides an excellent example of why a One Health approach is necessary. It exemplifies the intersection of human health, wildlife health, and ecosystem health. The peatland swamp provides numerous ecosystem services, including carbon storage, biodiversity conservation, and resources that support local communities. Changes to the health of this ecosystem, therefore, not only have consequences for wildlife, but for local communities and the environmental stability. Threats to Sabangao include peatland drainage, fires, conversion for agriculture, timber logging, wildlife hunting, and climate change. These threats will eventually lead to reductions in both the abundance of individual species and species richness, resulting in reduced biodiversity. The number of services provided by the site highlight the importance of conservation at Sabangao. Conservation efforts include replanting areas, continual research and monitoring of the flora and fauna, educating local communities, and continual damming in the area to assist with water retention to help with those wildfires and flooding. The researcher's site proximity to the forest edge and greater accessibility leads to relatively high encroachment and hunting presence. Exploitation of wildlife in the area still occurs, including fishing and the hunting and trapping of soft-shell turtles, bearded pigs, sambar deer, and flying foxes as a food resource, as well as the capture of green leaf birds, box turtles, and blue-crowned hanging parrots for sale in local markets as a part of the pet trade. However, in recent years, this activity has largely ceased and decreased owing to increased protection and possibly reduced populations of these species. In addition to animal resources, plant resources are used by local communities and are harvested for their medicinal properties. This resource acquisition from the forest highlights the cultural and economic importance of Sabangao for local communities. Sabangao is a biodiversity hotspot and supports many species of ecological, cultural, and economic importance. I've included a table here on the slides based off of 2018 surveying, just showing brief number of species found in the area. I'm sure there have been many more since then. This is since 2018. Surveys conducted in 2018 also confirmed the presence of 46 species currently listed as threatened by the IUCN. In addition, 59 species that are legally protected in Indonesia and 22 vertebrate species found within the ecosystem are endemic to Borneo. Most notably, Sabangao is believed to contain the largest contiguous protected population of the Bornean orangutan. And all the photos included here are ones that I've just taken walking around the forest. So it's an incredible spot. I very much recommend visiting it if you are able. Okay. The One Health model employs a multifaceted approach to complex health issues. It recognizes the interdependence of human health, animal health, and wildlife health. The goal is to address and resolve complex health issues through collaboration across disciplines, acknowledging the interconnected roots and consequences of such issues. A One Health approach to complex health issues challenge is especially appropriate in Indonesia due to the high level of biodiversity, endemism, and the rapid land use changes, as well as the high rate of human and wildlife contact. Sabangao is an ideal site to explore principles of One Health in action, as it is not an ecosystem that exists in isolation from people. As you've seen, we've got hunting and plant exploitation. We've also got ongoing research, resource acquisition, and changes to one component of this ecosystem can have knock-on negative consequences for other areas of the ecosystem. The interconnectedness of Sabangao makes it an excellent natural laboratory for understanding the principles of One Health in action. Right. Sabangao is believed to contain the largest contiguous population of Bornean orangutans. It is a site of significant importance in orangutan conservation. Orangutans play a vital role in the maintenance of ecosystem health. They provide many ecosystem services such as seed dispersal. As highly mobile frugivores, they're able to disperse seeds much larger and much further than other vertebrates in the area. This supports the forest health by maintaining a high level of biodiversity and supports the long-term stability of the ecosystem. The importance of orangutans extends beyond their ecological roles. They also provide economic benefits through ecotourism and support scientific research, education, and public engagement with conservation. As one of our closest living relatives, orangutans offer valuable insights into human and non-human primate behavior, cognition, and behavior. Conserving orangutans therefore requires a multifaceted approach: habitat protection, restoration of degraded and fragmented forests, rehabilitation of displaced individuals, scientific research, law enforcement, and community engagement all play important roles in ensuring the long-term survival of orangutan populations. An important component of these conservation efforts is health surveillance. Monitoring the health of orangutans allows researchers to identify potential threats and to individuals and populations before they become severe. At the same time, because orangutans are closely connected to the ecosystem they inhabit, changes in orangutan health can provide valuable information about the broader environmental changes occurring within the environment. Factors that influence orangutan health include habitat degradation, fragmentation, and loss of insufficient nutrients, insufficient water, heat stress, increased contact with humans, increased contact with domestic animals, and introduced pathogens and diseases to the area. By monitoring the health of orangutans at Sabangau, the research I'm doing with BNF contributes towards orangutan conservation. By monitoring the gastrointestinal parasites in orangutans, we're not only learning about the health of individual animals, but also gathering information that may help us understand the health of the wider ecosystem and environment. This also allows us to monitor for potential new parasites to the area and respond accordingly. Parasites are an important part of any ecosystem. However, they become a problem when the ecological balance changes. This can be as a result of changes in the environment, animal, or human health. A healthy host is able to maintain a balance of microorganism communities of bacterial, helminthic, and protozoan species. However, various external factors can impact this balance and result in adverse health outcomes for the health of individuals. A decline in ecosystem health can have knock-on effects to orangutans, reducing their overall health and negatively impacting their immune system. This can result in an increased risk of parasitic infection. This can lead to disease outbreaks and epidemics, which have the potential for interspecific species transmission. Gastrointestinal parasites of orangutans offer an effective way to model how a One Health approach can contribute to orangutan conservation. Parasites as tools for indicators of ecosystem health will simplify data for decision makers and provide focal points for strategic planning, policy changes, specific management actions, and resource allocation. Why should we care about parasites? Firstly, we should address what a parasite is. They're organisms that live in or on a host organism, getting its nutrients at the expense of the host. The parasite-host relationship functions by appropriating resources, reducing the host's fitness to varying degrees depending on a variety of factors. As a consequence, the presence of parasites has the potential to negatively impact human health, animal health, food production, economic trade, and biodiversity conservation. In a healthy and balanced ecosystem, a parasitic infection should not impact host health to a significant degree. The host should have the resources and immune ability to fight off a parasitic infection and maintain a high degree of health. It is when the system becomes unbalanced that the host is unable to fight off these infections and can be overwhelmed by the parasitic infection. Because of this, parasitic infections operate as useful indicators of health. In a healthy environment, we would expect to see a diverse and often stable array of parasites. However, a high number of parasites or dramatic changes in population sizes can be a warning sign of an ecologically stressed system. Parasites can be used as indicators of environmental change. For example, helminths often rely on complex life cycle interactions to ensure their transmission, relying on a variety of hosts at different life stages. A host parasitic assemblage could potentially reflect the host position within the food web, as well as the presence in the ecosystem of any other organisms that participate in the various parts of the parasite's life cycle. Changes to host parasite diversity may be reflective of changes in the ecosystem, disturbing or altering transmission patterns, reflecting changes in the overall ecosystem biodiversity. Parasite compositions of wild, semi-wild, and captive orangutans have been well studied, so we do know the general range of parasites that are able to infect orangutans. This includes both protozoan and helminthic gastrointestinal parasites. How do orangutans acquire these parasites? The white dots in these images are there to represent parasite eggs, oocytes, and cysts. Both biotic and abiotic factors play a role in the susceptibility and transmission of parasites to and from other orangutans. Soil acts as a vector of parasites. Contaminated soil, fruit and leaves can transmit viable parasites, eggs, oocysts, and cysts to host orangutans. Eating or interacting with these contaminated soil, plants, or fruit materials puts individuals at high risk of infection. Fecal oral transmission is another route of parasite transmission. Direct or indirect contact with contaminated feces containing parasite eggs can lead to infection. Interactions with infected conspecifics can result in infection, as well as interactions with different species. Orangutans are able to catch parasites from other wildlife species that come into contact with or frequent the same areas as them. Under this umbrella of interspecific transmission, species can be transmitted to and from humans. There is a higher risk of this in captive settings, rehabilitation centres, or areas with high ecotourism where researchers, guides, and visitors may inadvertently transmit the parasites to or from the orangutans. Environmental stresses also make orangutans more vulnerable to parasitic infections. Stress, malnutrition, environmental challenges such as wildfire smoke can weaken an individual's immune system, making them much more vulnerable. All right. I'm now going to briefly cover the work that I have been doing with BNF. My work involves the analysis of fecal samples collected from the Sabangau National Park. That I use the analysis techniques of sedimentation and flotation to detect parasites, species, abundance, and distribution. Fecal samples are a great tool for analyses. They're non-invasive, relatively easy to collect, and can tell us a lot about the health of individual orangutans. In addition to the fecal samples, we have other methods of monitoring orangutan health. We perform visual assessments of the quality of health of orangutans, noting features such as weight and injuries. Additionally, we collect and analyze urine samples, which can also tell us a lot about the health of an individual. It is important to assess orangutan health with many methods. The presence of parasites does not immediately mean an orangutan is unhealthy, as they are a natural part of all ecosystems. However, they can cross a tipping point when they have significant negative impacts on the health of orangutans. By monitoring all these different avenues of health, we can better understand exactly where that boundary and tipping point lies. The motivation behind analysing orangutan parasite composition is to analyse the health of orangutans at Sabangau, to track changes in the environment and its impact on parasite composition of the local orangutans, to track if factors such as age and sex impact orangutan abundance, and to build up a database of known parasites in the area to build a long-term data set of orangutan health at Sabangau. Sample collection, the very glamorous part of my job where I get to go out at 4 a.m. to collect poo from orangutans. Specific protocols are followed to ensure that fecal samples are collected from orangutans in a standardized manner. Samples are collected non-invasively from this wild population. The primate team at Sabangau will go out and locate an orangutan. They will then follow that orangutan until they build a nest, where it will be marked with a GPS point. We will return the next morning at around 4 a.m. to then collect fecal samples from the orangutans, as generally the first thing they do when they wake up is go to the bathroom. Ideally, we would be collecting these samples for 10 days in a row and then analysing the samples from days 1, 5, and 10, just to give us a better picture of the long-term parasite compositions of an individual. Once we collect the samples, ideally around 5 to 10 grams, we will store that in SAF, sodium acetate acetic acid formalin, not the Society of Agroforestry, thank you. And storing the samples in the solution allows for the long-term preservation of them, and it also maintains the parasite morphology within the samples. As I said, currently in the laboratory, we're using the sedimentation method. We've been using this method since 2024 of May. So we've got 2 years of data using this one, and we're currently trialing a new method, the flotation one. Using these in conjunction will just help give us a better, more accurate picture of the local parasite populations. So we start off with weighing out a sample of the fecal sample, grinding it up with SAF to ensure that everything is nicely evenly coated, and then strain that out. And then we will add ethyl acetate to the sample. This helps to remove debris and fat. We'll then centrifuge that. Then as you can see, these lovely layers form in that third picture. What we want is at the very bottom of that tube, that's where all the parasites are. So we will dispose of what is at the top. We'll repeat that again with SAF to further clean the sample, discard the superannuant again, and then dilute that with water to better allow for more clearer visibility. And then we will analyze that. For each sample, we analyze 3 slides, and we go up and down to ensure that we cover the entire slide. We're currently trialing the flotation methodology. This operates on a slightly different principle, where rather than the parasites sinking to the bottom of the tube, we're hoping that they will be floating to the very top. This is a much better method for detecting protozoans, which the sedimentation method isn't particularly effective. We mix these samples with a sugar water solution called the Sheathers solution, and it should ideally have a specific gravity heavier than that of the parasites. And then we fill it up until there's a positive meniscus, as you can see in the second photo. Put a cover slide on top of that, wait for about 60 minutes, and then put that onto a slip for analyses. Because this is still being trialed, it has not yet been included in the statistical analyses. I've got some preliminary results for you guys. So in the samples, we are finding Balantidium coli. This is the most common, and we find these in 2 forms, trophozoites and cysts. We're also finding strongyloides at a very high rate, strongyloides species, as well as strongylids. And then at much lower rates, we are finding, and also hookworms, and then at much lower rates, we are finding Enterobius, trematodes, Ostophagosum, and Trichurus. And so I've broken those down by sex there. So as you can see, the females have an overwhelming bias towards the Balantidium cysts, where the males have a much more distributed parasite species abundance. And this is based off of the results of 135 individual samples across 2 years from 17 different individuals. We've got 5 females and 12 males represented in this. Okay, and several of these parasites detected do have zoonotic potential, including the Balantidium, strongyloides, and certain hookworm species. This again highlights the importance of continued monitoring of parasite communities, not only for orangutan conservation, but to also monitor potential risks to human health and the potential of disease transmission from orangutans, from humans to orangutans, or the other way. And then I've just further broken this down into individuals. So here we have all the female individuals. And as you can see, Georgia is really throwing off the curve. She unfortunately has quite a few of those Balantidium cysts. This is just built up as an average across all the samples to give a big picture. We have more samples from fewer females, you may note. This is because at Spangar females tend to have a much smaller home range. So we have a smaller group of resident females, which we're able to continuously collect data from, where with the males, they have much larger home ranges. So we'll see we'll see males coming in more frequently, but then they'll leave more frequently as well. So more males with fewer samples, and then fewer females with more samples. And you can see that here again. And this is with the males. So again, you can see that we've got many more individuals. They also have a lower parasite load overall compared to the females. Then again, we've got a couple individuals just throwing off the curve a bit. Poor Caesar and Eros unfortunately had a bad case of Balantidiums the few times they were sampled. Right, and then I've broken the distribution over time down by helminth parasites and protozoan parasites, done this due to the significant differences in lifestyles. So as you can see with the helminths, I've plotted those across the dry and the wet seasons. We have very clear peaks in the dry season of 2025. Unfortunately, we haven't yet been able to fully capture another dry season. As you can see, we started and have caught up with being midway between dry seasons. So just reflecting again the importance of continual monitoring. We believe that there may be a higher parasite prevalence during the dry season because of reduced immunity. The orangutans may be dehydrated during this period. There may be reduced food ability. There may be more heat stress. And you again see that reflected in the protozoan distribution across time. The protozoans are the Ballantinium cysts, which is why Ballantinium cysts and trophozoites. This is why you're seeing a much higher presence in the females, again, because they have across the board many more Ballantiniums than the males. And again, much higher peaks during the dry season. Okay, the results of that analysis just reflect again why the continual damming is so important. This is important to retain the water in the peatland swamp, to make sure that orangutans and other species are able to stay hydrated, keep their immune systems up, ensure that plants are able to grow adequate food supply. This will also, so the results of this analysis will also better inform relocations in the future. A big risk with any animal relocation is introducing new parasites and pathogens to an area. If we have a baseline understanding of local parasites to the area, we can make better informed relocations, ensuring that orangutans who are being introduced to the area either have the same parasites or fewer than from the area to ensure that nothing new is being introduced. Another conservation application is continued research in the area. Sorry. If clearer links can be drawn between animal, human, and environmental health, then efforts can be better directed, resources better distributed. Okay, future directions. Ideally, I would love to see a standardization of methodologies across various sites of orangutan conservation. Different national parks, rehabilitation centres. The benefits of standardizing this will allow us to have better analyses across sites. And this will allow for better, more widespread monitoring. And one of the best things we can do with this research is the continual collection and analysis in the area to build up a comprehensive long-term database spanning multiple years with representation from multiple cycles of wet and dry seasons. In addition to the implementation of getting tired now, I've gone right to the end. I would also like to better link environmental factors with parasite distributions across time, a better understanding of rainfall, temperature, humidity. Those factors will again better inform us as to the exact factors influencing orangutan health. Okay, conclusions. Okay, I hope that from this talk we've all gathered that conservation is a multifaceted issue involving many different disciplines. It's not a single one issue, human health, animal health, or ecosystem health. They all interact and they all impact one another. And because of this, primate health doesn't only have positive consequences for the primates themselves. Orangutans are considered umbrella species, meaning that conservation for orangutans has positive effects for other species in the ecosystem. And this will also have knock-on effects to human health and then broader environmental health. And then just on a personal note, say yes to as many opportunities as you can. I wasn't trained as a parasitologist, but I've had so many incredible opportunities that have gotten me to this place. I've had great training from many different people. And the volunteering I've done in New Zealand had so much overlap with the skills that I've used here, even if they weren't necessarily specific to a parasite laboratory. And then I've got my references, and then a big thank you, terima kasih banyak, to the university for having me Dr. Helen, she is the head researcher at BNF. She is also my boss and has facilitated this research. Thank you to Egan. She trained me in the laboratory and she has done a lot of the research that I was building the analysis off of, as well as Amber. She was the previous researcher in my position. And thank you to the Borneo Nature Foundation and to the primate team at BNF for assisting with the collection of samples. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mila, for delivering your lecture. So, when I said our closest living relative, the orangutan, I don't know that they also wake up and go into to bathroom. But yeah, basically what Mila do with her team is also sometimes we also do to human to collect fecal sample, but fortunately we don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. and go to the forest, just hand out how to collect sample and give the patient the blood. So from research that has been done by Mila and her colleagues, the parasites like Brantidium coli and helminth like trichuris, hookworm, strongyloides could also be found in human patients. So this is very related to One Health approach. So any of you have question for Mila? Okay, from the eastern part.
Hi Mila, hi everyone. I'm Duala from Jogja. So my first question would be, in my very shallow understanding about orangutan. So orangutan has important roles to uncover the leaves density, allowing the sunlight to enter the forest, right? To enter and to sign the soil. Uh, I wonder if the number of orangutan decrease or being sick. I assume it will affect not only the ecosystem and the biodiversity, but in the future also the climate change and also the human, of course. So I wonder if you could tell us more, shed some light about the thing to us here. And my second question would be, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned your background is biological anthropology. Anthropology. Okay, so maybe that's interesting. So maybe during your work in Sigbangao, maybe you could tell a story about the relationship between the orangutan and the indigenous people there, and also the transmigrant. You know, the transmigrant, the yeah, the people who came from another area, so non-indigenous people, to work and to open the land there for the plantation or whatever. That's the government program, Indonesian government program. So I wonder how the relationship between the orangutan and the forest and the indigenous people, and also with the transmigrant, and how they affect each other.
Great questions, thank you. I believe the first part was asking more about ecosystem services provided by orangutans, and you're completely right about reducing the density of overall coverage. They naturally prune the forest, so by eating the leaves and building nests, yeah, they open up the canopy for much more light to get through, and also the ecosystem roles of spreading seeds around. So was your question, with reduced orangutans, what are we expecting to see like consequences?
Yes.
Yeah, so again, overall reduction in ecosystem health. We won't be having that seed dispersal, and this will have many negative knock-on effects to other species. So yeah, we're going to see a reduction in species diversity in the forest, and this may negatively impact other species which rely on those as food sources, because yeah, we'll see fewer plants growing, less dispersal. And then in terms of the orangutan and human interactions, in Sabangau, the local Dayak population, Dayak Naju, there is a very long and interpersonal history there. The Borneo Nature Foundation and Simtrop, I do believe, strive to incorporate ideologies, and they do highlight the importance of acknowledging the Indigenous presence in the area. I believe this is carried out as well by not exploiting the national park to a significant degree. It has been open to ecotourism, and that is for the purpose of public education, sharing an appreciation for the forest, and further supporting conservation in that regard. I can't speak too deeply to the actual philosophies behind it. I am trying to learn more about the Dayak Ngaji presence in BNF, and many of the workers at BNF themselves are Dayak, and they've been really great teachers in that. And yeah, I hope to continue to learn more about it in the future. And sorry, and translocations of orang.
Transmigrant. I mean, like,
From the area around the forest, but they are not native from
Uh,
other region.
non-indigenous people.
Yeah. And sorry, what was the question about them? Sorry.
The relationship between you already explained
Oh, yes.
about the relationship with the indigenous people, but what with the non-indigenous people who open the land? They moved to Borneo.
Yeah.
They moved to nearby of the forest area to
Yeah.
open the land.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So the nearest city to Sabangau, the national park, is Kering, and from my understanding, it is a largely indigenous population. There are more recently people that have moved from other cities for job opportunities, but again, from my understanding, it's been a very positive, holistic incorporation of sharing of knowledge and resources. I hope that answered. Sorry, I'm
No worries.
still quite new to the area, so I'm still learning.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Thank you, Dr. Mila, for the amazing presentation. And my name is Yuna, and from Jakarta. And I would like to ask one question. Like what I saw before, that there is one health triangle of Sabangau, and there is risk of zoonosis between orangutan and also human. What I want to ask is, have you ever found the spillover, the zoonosis case, that comes from orangutan and it affected human in Sabangau area, or any conservation that you found that we can see the parasites that you found in orangutan, that does it cause illness in the human in the area too? Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you for your question. And that's definitely an area I'd love to look at in the future. Currently, there haven't been any studies on parasite compositions of people in the area, or there haven't been any links drawn yet. There have been previous studies on parasite transmission from primates in high areas of tourism. I believe there have been quite a few between macaques, but none yet that directly draw lines between orangutans and humans. But it is something I would love to do. There's just a lot more ethics involved with human health than there is with animal health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question.
Okay, thank you, Mila, for your amazing presentation and your research for us to better understanding about the orangutan and also the parasite inside the orangutan. So my question, so you did your research on parasitology and parasite, and I want to know your recommendation for the community who work or to who live around the Sebangau National Park, who 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 act as the uh, forest as their source of their food. So what would be your recommendation for them to reduce their interaction to the source of the pathogen, which is it's orangutan? So that's my question for you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. I definitely wouldn't recommend that they need to stop. It's an important practice, resource acquisition from the forest, and especially at the low level it's being done, it's not harmful to the ecosystem. So I wouldn't want to stop a cultural practice. I would just say, just to ensure that produce is just washed effectively, just ensuring that if they're securing food, that it's cooked to a high temperature, and medicinal properties are just, washed well with soap and water. Luckily they are quite easy to sort of get rid of. So yeah, it would just ensure that everything's washed well, hands are washed.
Okay, so
Thank you.
is there any medicine for them to take before they go to the field, to the forest, or maybe something more strategically so they can reduce to go to the forest?
Yeah, to reduce the risk. I don't, as far as I'm aware, there's no preventative medicine for parasites, but there's many over-the-counter treatments, medicinally, and also many plant resources. I know papaya seeds have really great anti-parasitic properties. So there's many resources people can take. Luckily, they're quite easy to treat, all the zoonotic ones at least. It's just a matter of not letting them get the infection too bad. So if you are sick, go to the doctor or take some medicine. Thank you.
Maybe one more question. Okay. Thank you so much. I guess like I hope you have a good time here in Indonesia, especially in Jogja, because I'm new here too. My question is pretty simple. It's like you have done a lot of your work on animal, and then you have the research on animal and trees as well as birds, which I saw in the slides. And you mentioned the human health, and we saw a triangle, and it's like integrated system. So the question is simple, like how do your research supports the integrated system, like you call One Health system, though you have done some sort of awareness sessions, I guess, with locals, and then how you can explain to a student from like technologies and the idea about your research, how does it integrated, because most of your work done by animals, I guess, the research and trees and different things. I didn't like catch during, but what I assume, like in pretty simple way, I can say, how does a human is integrated with your research, though most of your work is done on animals?
I think the previous talk highlights that really well, the importance of green spaces for human health. So while it may not be directly obvious how researching orangutan parasites will affect humans, is actually lots of different pathways. So again, as I stated, the reductions in ecosystem health, if we lose orangutans, that's going to negatively impact humans. We're going to have less green space. There's going to be less opportunities for ecotourism, for education, which will have economic consequences. There's also the increased risk of zoonoses. So it's assumed that we would be able to get those parasites from orangutans, so there'll be a direct cause there. Yes, there'll be, and then also affecting cultural practices. So if there is a reduction in the ecosystem health, if we're seeing fewer trees, maybe fewer medicinal trees, then local people will find those much trickier to acquire, as well as hunting. Be much harder to find animals there as a food resource. Does that answer that?
Yeah, I guess like I mean, like you have done some sort of sampling, collecting samplings,
Yes.
and you had some sort of symptoms that affect you, like human life. Let's suppose for you, you mentioned that you went earlier to collect samples. So did you take any kind of, the girl mentioned about the medicines, though you are not
Yeah.
doctor, but have you done any research that like the symptoms that had some problems with your health during the sampling?
Yeah.
Did you had
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. So we wear lots of PPE. So whenever we're collecting samples, whenever I'm in the laboratory, I'm wearing gloves, a mask, a lab coat, and then I'm washing my hands constantly and using hand sanitizer. And I'm self-monitoring. If I feel unwell, I will, I'll go to the doctor, and I can probably pretty clearly point towards what it might be. But for now, I and the team I work with, we're wearing our gloves and staying healthy.
Yeah, helps.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one question from the online participant. So this is from Wiwara from Yogyakarta.
Thank you, Iwata. That's a good question. For the first part, why is it not more widely known? One part of my research, I'm really lucky in to be working with charismatic megafauna. I hope everyone loves orangutans. You know, they're cute. Kids like toys of orangutans. Who doesn't love orangutans? However, on the other side, who likes parasites? They don't make a very cute toy. People aren't all that interested generally in reading about them, hearing about them. You don't get cute videos of parasites like you do with orangutans swinging through the trees. So I think that's one of the main reasons why they're not more widely known. There's just not as much public interest. Why do men I think that's a tricky one, the lack of access to conservation areas from Indigenous people. In the small amount of research I have done, there's a growing issue globally of dissonance with Indigenous communities and local ecosystems. There's many factors contributing to this, one of them being the need for work. So leaving those spots, there can also be, I suppose, conflicts between conservation goals and Indigenous land use, what may seem like a very clear positive cultural practice, such as harvesting from a specific area, may not be seen the same by potentially a government body that doesn't share those same knowledge systems or beliefs. And so there can be a disconnect there. More broadly, why has this knowledge not been effectively communicated? And in terms of why it hasn't been effectively communicated, it's still very much in its early days, this research. I believe the first or more comprehensive study on orangutan parasitology wasn't published until 2012. And since then, there is definitely a growing body of research, but not massive. Again, just the continual research in this area will assist in that. And hopefully with growing knowledge and research that it will be made a bit clearer how we can change principles to better reflect this and assist. I hope that answered everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mila, for your lecture and Q&A session. So from this last two lecture, I think we have take home message that just leave the wildlife alone, don't touch them, don't keep them as a pet, because you know they're full of parasites, and use maybe your boot or your slipper when you go outside, because most of the parasites are the soil transmitted helminth group. And don't forget to wash your hand, because most of the parasites are fecal oral transmitted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all. Please give your applause to Dr. Mila.